Is the remote there? Yeah. Bula. I don't see the remote. Is the remote here? The clicker. There it is. It fell. That's what fell. Well, good morning. Nice to be with all of you. Dr. Kang will join me later. In this session, the two of us will talk about GSTC's mission and activities and current plans. So there's a little bit of who we are and our history. There's a little bit about updates for those of you who know us well as to what's new and what's going on. And then Dr. Kang will come on stage to talk about the very technical aspects of accreditation, which we believe is entirely inadequately appreciated in our industries. We're going to spend some time on that. So we're going to move quickly through a great deal of information. So Mrs. Fantasia Lockington, thank you so much for the warm welcome, and we appreciate deeply that your Deputy Minister and Minister of Tourism gave us such a warm welcome. We appreciate and are honored by that last evening. It was a wonderful evening, so thank you so much for the warm welcome that we're receiving here in Fiji. So let me get right into it because I want to cover a good amount of information. There we go. I'll push hard. So very briefly, who are we? In 2007, two UN agencies, UN Tourism and UN Environment, then known as UNEP and UNWTO, created us. They had been working together for a few years on defining sustainability in travel and tourism. They created the short definition, they gave a lot of guidance, they did the first ever analysis of climate impacts from travel and tourism, and then through that work they said we also need a long definition of sustainability. Because I think if we ask anybody what does sustainable tourism mean, I think we get as many answers as there are people we're asking. So we provide that valuable role of condensing a global effort to define what we mean by sustainability. So we really are keepers of global standards, and we make that claim really based on two things. One, that UN foundation and that UN birth. So foundationally, for all the standards that we develop, we use as a starting point the SDGs. Originally, in that time, it was the MDGs. You know, we had the Millennium Development Goals at that time, and later the SDGs. So that's our starting point, start with those definitions. And the second reason that we make that claim is that we go through an incredibly inclusive process to first develop and then revise standards. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So they created us in 2007 to do that. But they also asked us to give guidance on how to apply the standards. And so all the programs that we do are based on that idea of how to properly apply standards for a systematic approach to sustainable tourism. This is really the essence of we are, taking a systematic approach. For the green transition and to move the world to sustainability, it's not easy, is it? If it was easy, the world would be sustainable yesterday. We have tremendous challenges. We need all sorts of skills. We need storytellers, we need image makers, we need all sorts of skills to convey it. Our role is to help create a systematic framework for making progress. So in the history of our organization, then we've created standards. By the way, I know the font is small. We'll share this entire presentation with you in PDF post-conference in your post-conference materials. So you don't need to take photos of the screens. You'll get the full presentation afterwards. So that's our history from 2007 to the present. We had a lot of activity really quite recently, 2024, because we released new standards. At the beginning, in 2007, we worked on and launched in 2008 hotel and tour operator standards, and then later it was destination. But now we have several standards newly created just last year for MICE and for attractions. So it's really kind of changing the nature of our work. All the dates that you see here and all the standards we've created, the first date was the formal release, and the other dates were formal revisions. And to create standards, we spend a full year to create. And to revise, we spend nearly a year with 2 rounds of public consultation, And that goes back to my second point of why we make the claim that our standards are the global standards. No standards for sustainability in travel and tourism in the world come even close, nowhere close to the inclusive process we go through. We put out a call to all 6 populated continents. So we gather together the input from people all over the world, north, south, east, west, developed, undeveloped, all cultures, and put that all together and then condense that. You could have a standard that never ends with all the input, but it's also a process to condense, to prioritize. And then so anybody can contribute, you can contribute, but we do put together technical advice, real expert committees too to really help refine it. So the GSTC standards belong to every one of you just as much as they belong to any of us at GSTC. We're the managers of a process. And we think that's important. If the outcome looks similar to some other standards, still the fact that we go through that inclusive process gives them the credibility to say this is truly a global standards. This is a consensus across cultures and across peoples as to what are the most important elements. So then we have MICE and attractions, I said, are new, and then now we're working on food and service. Interestingly, if you look at, I'm often asked, well, how often do you revise? And we revise typically as a rule of thumb about every 5 or 6 years. But if you look at the original industry standards for hotels and tour operators, we have not revised since 2016. So we're doing a revision process right now. But at the 5-year point, we do some analysis and surveying people to ask, is this standard still relevant and useful today? And so we do that at about the 5-year point, and people say it's basically fine. So that's the guidance on how to operate, and revise standards, is you don't have to revise them every 5 years or 6 years. You have to study, is it still good enough? Because think about it, if you revise them too frequently, and they're cascading through all these systems globally, then everybody has to change their system. So you have to revise them occasionally as the world changes, but you can't do it too often. So we work hard to get all that just right. All of them are based on these 4 pillars, which conform to the SDGs. Pillar A in all of them is governance and management are in all of them. Someday maybe that'll go away, and we'll just call that good management, not sustainable management. But at this point of human development, we need particular guidance on how we manage for the sustainable transition. B, C, and D. B about social and community elements, C about culture and community, and D about the environment. Look at the language of B, C, and D. Maximize benefits, minimize negative impacts, do more good, do less harm. So this framework is for all of the standards. They're on our website, free of charge in the public domain. We're very mission-based. We give our intellectual property away for free. We reserve the right to charge for commercial use of them, but they're there. We've translated them into many languages. All of our technical work is done in English because every phrase was very carefully put together. Every word, every phrase went through long processes to settle on those words and phrases. But we have them in many languages for the purpose of training and awareness. So we encourage you to download them and use them. And again, they're SDG based because that's our starting point. So they easily map to the SDGs because we start there and go from, so you can use them very easily to work on the SDGs. They map very easily, and we print them right on the standards. So as an organization, I think it's quite remarkable that our low resource, give away our intellectual property away for free organization has such big reach. We're active truly globally. Our members are now 527 strong of public sector, private sector in 91 countries. That number of countries goes up and down, including individual members. It's 100 countries at the moment, so it's been hovering around 100 for a long time. Our board of directors represent the world. Good dispersion and representation throughout the world, as you can see. We're truly global. Our chair, Luigi Cabrini, sends his regards. This is the first meeting of significance we've done in our 18 years that Luigi missed. but he had some very strong family obligations. So Dr. Kelly Bricker is playing this role, and it's absolutely appropriate because Kelly was our original chair. She and Luigi were involved in the very creation of GSTC from the start. She was our chair from 2007 to 2014. At that time, Luigi retired from his 11 years as the head of sustainability at UNWTO, and they traded positions. And Kelly's been the vice chair ever since. So throughout our entire existence, Kelly has been chair or vice chair. The top row here are the members of our executive committee that meets more frequently than the full board. The full board meets quarterly. And the top row is an executive committee of officers that meet much more frequently. So that includes Kelly, who's here. Coco Tang from China is on our executive committee. Thank you very much, Coco, for all your support. And then on the bottom row, Kuniko-san, where are you? She's here from Japan at JTB. Thank you so much, Kuniko-san, for your tremendous support. And then you'll see further representation around the world. Jorge Moller is here from Chile. Hola, amigo, ore, el guapo. So you can see tremendous representation. I mean, we have TUI, we have major OTAs. Kate is from Booking Holding. That's not just Booking.com, that's also Agoda.com and other brands. She's on our board. We have Edison Chen from Trip.com, so we got some major OTAs. Like I say, TUI, JTB, significant brands, but also NGOs and so forth. Just tremendous representation and a very active, very engaged board that really, truly contribute to what we do. Who are you? Well, there are, I think about 340, I think is the number. And you come from all over the world. And so it's, representative of our membership is that, the attendees here come from all over the world. And in terms of where you work, about 27% of you are in the public sector between NTOs, government agencies, and then off to the right, DMOs. But you can see an incredible mix of people in this room. Hospitality, consultants, academics. We did an academic symposium yesterday, so that brought us 9%. But what's striking to me is the other is 19%. So that's less than 1% each. So there's a long tail of various other people. So an incredibly diverse room in terms of roles and activities. I'm moving quickly because we want to cover a lot of information. So I'll kind of shift from topic to topic. A couple of branding updates at GSTC. We changed the name formally from the GSTC criteria to GST standards recently. The reason we did that is that our founders, when they created the standards, thought, well, let's give it a separate name to distinguish it a little bit. But we found over time that was confusing. People didn't realize that these are standards. They're absolutely standards. We follow international norms for creating standards and inspire others to do so. So we decided to remove any confusion and just formally call them the GSTC standards. So we still use the word criteria for the plural of the elements in it, and singular is criterion, by the way. The other development is that we owned the GSTC.org domain name for a while. It took us a while to acquire it, and it took us a while to start using it. So we've made a big transformation. So you'll see our email addresses and website have changed. So just awareness on that. So let's talk about words to help understand about our mission and what we do. We're always asked, what's the difference between sustainable tourism and ecotourism? So let me get right at it. We see ecotourism as a noun. It's a form of tourism. So originally, 30 years ago, when people talked about all this, ecotourism was more the common term. Today, it's generally used, and it's certainly our approach at GSTC, that ecotourism is nature-based tourism that's highly sustainable. So we see it as a type of tourism. And this is an extremely important point. We see sustainable tourism as not a type. We don't see it as a noun. We see it as talking about a process of making progress. I don't think really any of us can claim to be sustainable business or sustainable destination. I think we're short of where we want to be on sustainability and net zero, and I think it's wise to be honest about that. We see sustainable tourism as a process of improvement, and conditions change, so you have to be totally on the game. So think of sustainable tourism, please, as a process for improvement and a goal to reach, but also very broadly. So far here we've talked a lot about nature, given the nature of the location and the emphasis on culture and nature here in the islands. But we work with mass tourism. We work with the largest brands. People ask me, how can you let that company in as a member? We let anybody in as a member. The less sustainable they are, the more we're happy to have them come on, because we've asked them to make a pledge to work on improvement. So we believe that all forms of tourism need to improve their performance. I think it's unrealistic to say certain things should go away. We could talk about it in a room like this, but that's not going to make it happen. Humans are going to do the activities they want to do. Our job is to help push them along, to inform them and guide them and urge them to operate more sustainably. So that's sustainable tourism, making all forms of tourism more sustainable, a process, a goal. So what then is regenerative? Well, I think most of us agree that when we talk about regenerative, we're talking about net positive, that the activities that we have give back more than they take. I think it's a pretty lofty goal. I'm not sure how realistic it is. I think we're quite far away on sustainability. So net zero would be sustainable, right? We're doing no more harm than we're doing good, and hopefully we're doing no harm, I guess, right? That's probably net zero. And net positive is we're doing more good than bad. How do we measure that? How will we ever measure regenerative? Are we going to say, we still emit a little bit of carbon, but we do so much for the community? Well, then we never make progress on carbon. So I think we need to use those terms very carefully, and I'm happy to talk more about it. This slide is really key to our work, and I really want to emphasize the thoughts here in this slide. To be systematic for sustainable change, we really think you have to work on these areas. And they have to be worked on separately, but then come together as a whole. So what do I mean? Well, first of all, the criteria, agreeing on what elements we're talking about. What is the set of standards? What's the checklist? And the value of having GSTC standards as a global standard is that the way we even describe animal welfare or climate change or whatever, and the performance indicators, how the words are phrased can make a difference on how it's measured and how it's reported. So you have to have some agreement on the things you're talking about. As an organization, you have to decide what are we going to work on. Then measuring. The industry has been very weak on measurement. And this is a big problem on sustainability. We measure very little. Think about it in a hotel. Does a hotel hire any staff to be Excel spreadsheet experts? No, they hire them to provide great service to the client, right? So we're a service industry. We're not an analytical industry. So we've been traditionally, I think, very poor in measurement. There's really great news. Many of you know about Travelist, the roll-up of a number of OTAs and GDSs, and they've now committed, and that includes some of our friends here, Trip.com, Booking.com, and many other OTAs and GDSs have agreed now to work collectively at creating a data hub for us to start gathering measurement data for sustainability. We see this as a tremendous step because it's so lacking in general. So if those giants of data do that, that's a wonderful thing. Then verification. We need to be much more systematic about that. At GSTC, we believe that the generic term we're talking about here is verification. We think that the word certification is used entirely too loosely. And so Dr. Kang is going to tell you about how our accreditation works, because we feel very strongly that there's something like about 300 labels for hotels in the world as sustainable. Many of them are just a simple self-assessment tool. Most of them are really consultants coaching for improvement, but then they turn around and have a person audit. That's completely verboten in the world of certification. And this is a very critical issue. When we talk to people in other sectors, most of you are probably familiar with FSC, Forest Stewardship Council, MSC, all these entities. But outside of sustainability, any American or Canadian knows a company called UL. All the electrical devices have safety devices. And they go from the certification body, they have all these laboratories through the US and Canada. If they're in Canada, they're accredited by the Canada National Standards Council. If they're in the US, they're accredited by the US National Accreditation Body. I just use that as an example. That's the way certification works for quality, for safety, for health, hygiene, everything in the world, but somehow in our industry, certification has come to be this catch-all term for all sorts of things that don't follow international norms for all those other uses of it. And we have provided and launched in 2016 an accreditation service, which is a mark on certification bodies. We think this is really crucial, and we think, frankly, it's underappreciated. So we're going to talk about a little bit more about that. I would say that in general in the industry, of these three areas, I think we do poorly in criteria because there's just so many standards and everybody wants to have another standard in my business or my destination. And every time a new standard is created, it's just more confusion for all the practitioners. We don't need more, ladies and gentlemen. On measurement, we've done very poorly, but there's good news. Help is on its way, so that's great. But we need common ways to measure. Our friends at the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, Glenn Manziak from Canada is the CEO of it. He serves on our board. They have a carbon measurement tool that's open source. So we need more of those open source tools. So there's some good news, but they need more pickup and more awareness and more use. So measurement has been poor, but on the rise. Verification, we think, is a complete mess, a complete disaster, because people just describe all sorts of verification systems and call them all certification. And I challenge you and I ask you to really think about those issues because it's a very real issue that's making it very difficult for OTAs to label businesses as more sustainable, and it just makes it confusing for everybody throughout the supply chain. And so we'll be talking more about that. So if we're going to be systematic, we just believe we have to get better at all of these and more cohesive. So we think that from our 18 years of experience, we acknowledge that for many of our first years, I think we were a bit naive to think that we could just say, here's the full standard, go use them, be fully sustainable in this holistic way quickly, just go do it. And we learned over time that's just not realistic. And that the best path forward, whether you're in a business or at a destination or policymakers, is to create some kind of scheme. The way we say, let's take it in stages. And we're finding this method, this model, to be very effective. So many of you are familiar with the way we operate a program in Turkey, where they have a goal where all 20,000 hotels in their big country will be fully certified by GSTC accredited certification bodies by 2030. That concept is sound. We're seeing businesses adopt this, and this is something that we're really helping with our various members in the public and private sector to have some kind of step-by-step basis. If you say, at the end of next year, we're going to be at our business, large or small, at our destination, we're going to comply with 30% of the GSTC criteria, and then in a couple of years, 70%, something like this. And two things can happen in tandem on a step-by-step process. One, we improve our business processes pieces at a time. We prioritize. We're going to work on plastics reduction. We're going to work on climate change reduction, right? We're going to work on the things we all know are existential crisis. They go in the priority list. They're in the 30%. So we're going to work on better business practices, but we're going to work on measurement and verification. We're going to do self-assessments, internal audits on how we're doing. And so we develop our skills of how we measure, develop our skills of how we report, because those are skills we need to develop. And those have been the forgotten skills. So take it bit by bit and work your way towards progress, celebrate victories along the way. We think this model is absolutely crucial, and this is where we're seeing really some successes after a lot of frustration about slow movement and frustration with the totality, the enormity of the work to go be, fully, holistically sustainable. So this is really, truly what we believe in. We'll get Dr. Kang up here in a couple of minutes, but very quickly on other programs besides accreditation that she'll talk about, very quickly on our other programs. We're doing extensive amount of training these days. We've been at it for a long time, but we keep adding more specialized classes. We have our general class that's most famous for 11 years. That's really for leaders and managers. That covers the essence of both the public sector and private sector standards, upper left, sustainable tourism. This is a copy of our webpage, so you can easily find this yourself. But we've now added very practical training for hospitality, for practitioners, same for tour operators, and broken tour operators down into coastal tourism and to other kinds of tourism, accessible and inclusive travel, and MICE, destination stewardship course just came, business travel, and we can do private sessions or customize anything. And I am very proud to say that we now train in 19 languages. So you can see how global we are in our perspectives and how multicultural we are in our efforts. So all that's a big effort. Very quickly, a couple of examples of spreading the word on our course. Agoda.com has paid for access to our sustainable hospitality course online throughout Southeast Asia, making it available to people all over. Our friends at EasyJet Holidays in the UK, with their massive supply chain, are now co-branding our hospitality training with their own internal code of conduct and pushing that across their massive amount of hotels that they use throughout Europe and the Mediterranean. And all sorts of other funders and sponsors that really make all this happen. So I've mentioned Agoda, Traveloka has provided a lot of that, Virgin Voyages, Japan Tourism Agency, 3 public entities, JTA, European Union, USAID have supported the development. Too bad about USAID. Training partners, you can see on the screen, again, you'll get this full deck. So we do all that, everything we do, we benefit from partnership and collaboration. So we've got foundational activities, and it's all dependent upon somebody putting it to use. We're proud of what we have in terms of objective, high quality content and material, but it gets moving with partnerships. We run a destinations program where we met yesterday with our destination members and some of our activities there. We have a destination stewardship working group, and we have a 3 or 4 time a year newsletter on destination stewardship of good case studies, and we highly encourage you to open that in your mailbox when you get it. Really great case studies, and then they're all uploaded on our website, so we have a library of all those. We issue 1 paper yearbook per year of those. And we do that in partnership with our friend Jonathan Tortolo at the Destination Center in Washington and with Crest also in Washington. And the 3 of us jointly put that together. We're very proud of that. And we'll do destination assessments on call. That's not a certification, that's just a tough love message about how a destination is doing against our standard. But we encourage everybody in public sector, private sector to do self-assessments. Do self-assessments, look at the standard, do an honest checklist of how are we doing. That's really a key starting point. I want to comment upon the word stewardship. Destination stewardship does not always translate very well, but we think even the process of explaining in translation what we mean in English is an important learning. You remember when flight attendants were called flight stewards and stewardesses? It started with the American carriers to stop the language because they weren't providing service anymore. A steward is somebody who takes good care of things. I think Loloma fits into stewardship. It's caring, right? So we intentionally leave a bit of a confusing word just so we can talk about it. Destination should be managed with love, care, and attention. It's about community, and it's about people. And so that word is important to us. It's managing with care. A quick update here. You'll see information here. Tomorrow you can go during coffee break to get it. The official trailer of this very interesting work we did with a UK-based company, Content with Purpose. Some of our members are involved in it. It's a campaign that's going to launch shortly, August 19th. You can take a look at that. Very interesting. And then we'll get Dr. Kang up here in a moment. Why GSTC accreditation? Well, as I was talking about earlier, we think there's some 300 labels in the world that many of them call themselves certification, most of which, really actually all of which, I'm not really aware of others, they just have never had any external review. If you're going to turn to somebody to certify you, wouldn't you want them to have had review by somebody about how well they certify? But for 30 years, the industry has tolerated no external reviews. And so we've carefully launched in 2016, a very methodical service. We're very proud partners, our members of the ISEAL Alliance. We follow their codes of good practice. That was put in our bylaws at our birth in 2007 to follow codes for how you set standards, for how you create assurance programs. Frankly, we think that most of that is untouched. We are so proud on the left side. This is really amazing. We shocked a lot of people in the global community of how to certify anything, that we became members of the International Accreditation Forum. We started accreditation in 2016. We contracted it out to a company in Germany for several years. We took it in-house only 22 months ago and already became a member of the IAF. Other members are national accreditation bodies. So we've run a very efficient, very remarkable program. So Dr. Mihee Kang is going to come up and tell us about accreditation. Then I'm going to come back on the stage and I'll tell you more about the conference and a little bit more. So Mihee, please, there you are. Take it away.
Hola. Okay, I'm delighted to introduce you the GSTC assurance programs. It could be a little bit boring technical stuff, but I hope you find it useful to understand what we are doing, why we are doing this. Before moving to the details, I'm going to ask 3 true or false questions. Don't worry, it's not that they are not that difficult. Okay. The first question. GSTC is a certification body. Is it true or false? O or X? Show me your answer. Okay. Okay. The second, GSTC is an accreditation body. O or X? It's a good excuse to stretch your body. Okay. Last one, GSTC a scheme owner. It's difficult to use language, the O or X. Many decided not to give the answer. Okay, let's find the correct answers. GSTC has 2 assurance programs of recognized standard and accreditation. GSTC recognized standard status is given to standards that adhere to and are equivalent to GSTC standards, while GSTC accredited status is given to certification bodies that proved their competencies to conduct the GSTC certification by following GSTC requirements. GSTC requirements consist of internationally agreed requirements for certification bodies and GSTC set tourism-specific requirement. The core requirement is to have credible and impartial certification system. That includes transparent decision-making process, using competent auditors, not your just friends, and then no consulting service provision. GSTC recognized standard is not about the owner of the standard or how they use the standard. It's purely about the written document and whether they have the old GSTC requirement in their standard or not. Here are some definitions of key terminologies. So you can read quickly GSTC standard definition. And then there is the terminology, the new one maybe to you, certification scheme. That means a set of rules to conduct the GSTC certification using GSTC standard. Then GSTC accreditation refers to GSTC's attestation of a certification body's competency to conduct GSTC certification. And GSTC certification means those GSTC accredited certification bodies attestation that a hotel, tour operator, or destination meets the GSTC requirement written in the standard. GSTC accredited certification bodies. Once we accredit it, we conduct series of surveillance assessment. So we have here accredited certification bodies. Could you stand up? Certification bodies? Where are they? Okay, yeah, that's right. We have a control union, Bureau Veritas, UCSL, and Triple Island accredited for tourism industry. And then we have EarthCheck accredited for destination certification. So they've gone through all these assessment process. And then these accredited certification bodies certify hotels, tour operators, or destination who proved their compliance with the standard. And then when they certified those businesses or destination, they also conduct annual surveillance audit. So do we have any certified hotels, tour operators, destinations? As I know, we have, yes. Congratulations, and also thank you very much for your commitment. I hope you share your experience with the other participants. But again, you can see the screen, not just one time. They continually have to prove their compliance with the requirement, and then also have to show they improve their management and also have the more tangible practices. So in conclusion, GST certification and accreditation are not the same. GSTC is a scheme owner, accreditation body, but it's not certification body. So some of you made all the correct answers. There's no prize. GSTC assurance programs are based on GSTC standard. When we develop the standard, and also revise the standard, we follow ICO code. So they provide specific rules to standard setting. So based on that, we developed the GSTC standard setting manual. And then as you can see from the screen, we follow each steps. All the information about the GSTC standard development and the revision is on our website. You can find out everything. So currently, we have a second public consultation on the developing the new standard of food and beverage service providers. And then we also have a third public consultation on revising our industry standard. So please, visit our website and then share the opinions. Currently, we have a total of 48 recognized standards. They are used for GSTC accredited certification programs or non-certification purposes, such as internal improvement or training. We have conducted auditor training to support GSTC certification. So far, we have 611 people successfully completed the exam or the test. But you can see that half of people failed. We have 14 the certification bodies accredited for industry certification, 3 certification bodies for destination certification, and then we have 9 applicant certification bodies for GSTC accreditation. We have different types of initiatives, and then we conduct research to support industry's sustainability journey. So for example, we have roundtable discussions to find the way to support micro and small businesses to apply for GSTC certification. We also have discussions on animal welfare. All the GSTC standards have animal relevant criteria. When we talk about animal welfare, we have to be on the same page. To do so, we have the discussion. So all the discussions will be ended the end of this year, and then we are going to share the result of roundtable discussions. And then we have the initiatives. But later, if you need more information, please contact us. To enhance our credibility and validity, we continually monitor and evaluate ourselves. We also follow the ICO code to conduct this monitoring and evaluation. So based on our monitoring and evaluation system, we conducted those activities and published 2 reports. From the last year, we really focused on impact measurement. Did we really achieve some intended impact or not? If not, what we need to improve? How we can engage other stakeholders to achieve those intended impact? So focusing on that, we published the focus group interview result measuring impact on, and then you can find it from our website. And then we are going to share another impact research soon. As Randy mentioned, our certification scheme was assessed by IAF, and then we joined as a member. As an accreditation body, we also assessed by Inter-American Accreditation Corporation, which is a regional member of IAF. Then we were also accepted as associate member. All the policies, procedures, guidance, interpretations, public consultation schedules are shared on our website. So we want to be transparent as much as we can. I'd like to spend a bit more time to explain our accreditation. When we have a new certification body, or our certification body have to renew their accreditation status, we do a series of assessment. We review all the documents they have related to GSTC certification, their procedures, their guidance, their record of auditors, and how they manage other record of their certification. Then we go to their office to check their certification management system and also sometimes verify some document to be reviewed from the desk. Then we go to the field to witness their performance in the field. So if their auditors understand the GSTC standard properly and then also conduct the auditing in the required way. So if we finish all the assessment, we submit our report to Independent Accreditation Decision-Making Committee. GSTC has 0 influence on their decision. So this independent committee review the report, and then they decide to grant or withdraw or suspend the accreditation status. Once they granted accreditation, then we plan for civilians or additional assessment. This year, we have 50 regular assessment, including assessment for the new certification bodies. And then we have 189 plus additional assessment, including reviewing certification bodies, audit report, also the on-site client compliance assessment, etc. So you can see how intensively we assess our certification bodies. Why we do this? Because we believe certification is not just a distributing certificate. So we want to, our certification bodies to take a rigorous certification to make sure we also do a lot of the assessment. We also require our hotels, to do more tangible the practices, not just a written, beautiful document. So these 8 criteria is mandatory to show some visible performance from the January 1st this year. For example, when they say local purchasing, they have to provide the evidence at least 25% of their fresh food and beverage purchasing from the local suppliers and the locally produced. And then they shouldn't have any single-use plastic in their operation. So these are mandatory. We also require destinations to take comprehensive management approaches, not just only the visitors. If we do not have certified businesses, do not have renewable energy uses, If we do not have a green transport, how we can claim ourselves sustainable destination? So we set the minimum requirement for this. But we also offer the step-by-step approach to be certified. All the details is included in our accreditation manual, which you can find from our website. EU regulation number 765 requires all the certification bodies located inside of EU must get accredited by their national accreditation body. So to comply with this, we have been working with the Italian National Accreditation Body since October 2023. To expand our collaboration with other member states, we took the official process last December, and we expect the result will come out at the end of this year. Then, the EU member states' national accreditation bodies will conduct accreditation service on behalf of GSTC. GSTC accredits certification bodies outside of EU, and we remain as a scheme owner inside of EU. We are going to launch MICE certification and attraction certification early next year. For that, we draft the requirement for certification bodies, and then it's on public consultation from August 1st this year. So please also share your opinions on our requirements. And then we may launch food and beverage service providers certification the later next year or 2027. We will revise our destination standard from the early next year. We will continually inform you of our activities, changes, public consultations through our website or the social media. And then we will try to engage you as much as we can. But please contact us if you have any concerns, better ideas, or inquiries. Okay? So let's make the better world through our activities. Thank you. I will give the stage back to Randy.
Thank you, Mihee. There will not be a quiz. There's a great deal of information, but we wanted you to see all that information to get a flavor for the complexity of it and the thoroughness. And I hope you kind of take away from that. This is look at all the auditors who failed. This is a rigorous system. The label means something. There's a lot of labels out there that don't mean very much, so we're very proud of all that. Just to summarize that point, the World Bank publishes this. This is on a website. You can see, well, it's hard to, you'll get the PDF later. You can easily search on it like I did. The World Bank, when they go into a country and support certification for anything, safety, health, hygiene, quality, whatever, and they look at a national certification program, they categorize it along these lines. And so they rate things as rudimentary, very little is in place, very simple, basic, advanced, mature. And look, what they call recognition. Accreditation, accreditation, accreditation. If accreditation is not there, they consider that system rudimentary. Ladies and gentlemen, for 30 years in this industry, we've had most of the labels for sustainable tourism would be called by the World Bank rudimentary, that do not have an external review. That's the point of all this, is to make a credible system that really means something, audit process that's objective and impartial. So that's really core to us. And I just, Mihee touched upon these things, but I think the fact that we have a zero tolerance policy for these things means that it's a very rigorous. Oh, let me go back. Two things to highlight also from her talk. Those roundtables, I think, are very exciting. The roundtable on micro and small enterprises. Sometimes people think, well, it's just the luxury and the big operators that can get certified. But in our accreditation manual, we describe to the certification body that when they get started, they do a risk assessment. And if a property is so small that they cannot do much damage to the climate, and they're so small that their social impacts are so light, their audit process has rules for how much lighter they can go. And the certification should be much more affordable. So that's in place, but we're going to do more to kind of talk about that and promote that. And the other thing on animal welfare, You know, I think that of all of our standards, now that we have a traction standard, I think really one of the most sensitive issues is animal welfare. And so we've got that roundtable of global experts on that. And these are very difficult situations. I mean, I feel like the Western world wrongly stopped elephant riding in Thailand. You know, we ride horses in the Western world, but I think my point is it's a very complex issue. You know, and it needs all sides to really be analyzed on these things. It's animal welfare, so that's an interesting thing. That's why we've got a roundtable on it. So let's turn to the conference. So we have these themes. In all of our conferences, we always have a lot of content for the public sector to go all the way through a track with them. But then for the private sector and for everything else that we do, it's really we just kind of mix it up at our different conferences with different topics. But these are our core themes here on coastal and island tourism, community culture, responsible development, climate resilience and adaptation. Everyone in this room is an expert, and I think virtually all of you could be on stage. We make a big effort in all of our breakouts, all of our sessions, to limit to 4 panelists. We ask them to keep their presentations short, and we're very interactive. So we use Slido. Normally I do a little demo, but we're running short on time. I'm not going to. Hopefully you're all familiar with it. But we encourage you to follow the breakouts. He'll have the QR code to use Slido. And if you see a question that's similar to what you had in mind, upvote that one rather than repeating the same question, so we can see and prioritize questions. And we'll have interaction. So this is all about interaction. Our networking breaks are longer than usual. They're mostly 45 minutes. We'll be a little shorter this morning because we're running a little late. But generally, it's a lot of networking, tables of interesting organizations here, and the power at our conference of you all networking and interacting with each other is a very powerful part of it. So we're really designed for that interactive sharing, the way we run our breakouts, the way we have breaks set up with time and hopefully space to do all that. So let's focus on real solutions to common challenges. We're less interested in how exciting your destination is. This is not a promotional venture. This is, let's be honest about what are our real challenges and work together on real solutions. We have to work non-competitively to improve sustainability for a troubled world. So we'll do this later. We're not going to do a demo now on Slido because we're running short on time. But one thing to emphasize is that, I thought these were going to be taken out, but do create, when you get to Slido, well, should we do it, Roy, since the slides are still here? No, we're going to keep going. But when you do get the QR code in the rooms later, somebody's in there. We're going to pass on that in the interest of time. But you need to create a profile. Give us your name, because we've got a giveaway for active use of Slido. So the most active participant gets a 2-day, during the 2-day conference, receives a prize. We'll figure that all out later. So again, don't be anonymous on Slido. Make a simple little profile in the upper right corner to create a profile so we know who you are. And we can do upvoting on those contributions. Also a social media giveaway. If you follow our hashtag for this event, we've got a prize for a random draw for heavy social media users, which is also a free registration of one of our training courses of the future. So also we're using Snapsite, AI-generated Snapsite that give us access to real-time summaries and insights from all of our sessions. So we use Slido for interaction to get you your comments and questions, and we are using AI to get summaries immediately. So thank you so much to our co-organizers of Tours in Fiji for all this hard work. We've got some sponsors to thank: Booking.com, Reforest, Rosie Holidays, locally Destination Wayfinder, and GevMe. Thank all of you for your kind support. Please visit these promotional stands outside the room of these organizations during coffee tea breaks. We have these media partners at this event. Thank them for being here. And general GSTC sponsors, the previous sponsors were for this event, but we have a platinum sponsor from Traveloka this year. We thank them very much for their great support. And gold sponsors, TGA is the Turkish Tourism and Development Agency, Visit Sweden, and Tourism Fiji. So thank you all for that. It's very support. Thank you all for being a part of this. Again, you're all experts. We've all got a role to play. Let's make this all about sharing, learning, and moving sustainability onward and upward. So thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you for coming.